Well, James, I gave you one single task before this podcast, and that was to go on to Mometu. Uh-oh.
Was I supposed to do something?
You were. You already told me you did, so don't make it dramatic. Go to Mometu, look through the movies, find a movie that you and I could both watch ahead of time, and then do a quick little spoiler-free review on.
And like the selfish person I am, I picked Bittertooth because I produced it.
I picked something that Sandaled Kid Productions
Yes,
went ahead and
I picked
put
something from my
little
own
EP
company.
credit on.
Yes, I was like, I picked something from my own company.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of this film. And you had a pick of the litter. Obviously, you picked a film that you've made, but it's also a film that our guest from episode 12, Nicolo, also helped put together as well. With V channels are now Insurgents films, and so it was great that you did that. Obviously, same kind of collection of films as that went together with Stupid Games. So we premiered Stupid Games. 2 weeks later, we then premiered Bittertooth. And then 2 weeks later, we premiered another movie called The Box. So
which I was not involved with.
You were not involved in that one. So I was luckily I was able to pick one that you weren't involved in.
Yeah.
Of all like 4,000 films you've EP'd, your credit list is massive. So we got Bittertooth though, made in 2024 or made in 23, released in 24 on Mometu, and directed by our good friend Monte Light.
Monte Light,
who I'm hoping that we're working on trying to get him on the podcast as well. It'd be great to have him come on and talk about some other films that he's made. We just got a film on through Terror Films of his, so hopefully probably talk about that
Which one?
Blood Covered Chocolate.
Oh, yeah. That one's fun.
Yeah,
wow.
Really cool watch. So give us your first take on Bittertooth. Just quick little take and...
Yeah, I mean,
you know a lot about it. Obviously, you've seen it a couple times. So.
Yeah. I had seen it, but it was a good brush up because I hadn't seen it since it was released, and that was like a year and a half ago. Right now, at this point,
about a year ago.
About a year ago.
Well, it went out. What was it? Well, March, so April.
Yeah,
like.
But I watched it like when it was delivered. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not. So.
I had seen it myself. I saw the film in like December or January. Right around the same time when I saw Stupid Games.
It was a good rewatch for sure. And, I think, listen, one of the things that I think was done so well with the movie that I thought was so awesome was how creative Monty was with the editing.
Absolutely.
I thought that was one of my favorite things is just like the unique risks and chances he took with the editing. Was so interesting to see, like the split screens and all the different things that he did, during that, and the flashbacks and all these different stylistic choices he made in the edit, and really built in the edit, I thought was so cool to see, because it's very unique towards indie film. I mean, it's risks that I don't think you would see a mainstream film take, and a lot of them really worked, and I thought it was really cool to see.
Absolutely. And if you're interested in Bittertooth, obviously it's playing on Mometu, but we're going to go ahead and play the trailer for you. And if you're listening to this, you're unfortunately just going to hear it, but...
Interestingly, the Bittertooth is about a podcast.
It actually is about a podcast, so you're kind of it's kind of meta. It's on brand.
Yeah.
Here we go.
In 1982, a series of brutal murders outside Acton, California, would start a reign of terror. The police have been unable to solve this case as the bodies continue to pile up with no end in sight. This is the work of a serial killer, whom they've dubbed the Bittertooth Killer.
You survived Bittertooth Killer. So you fought that, for what it's worth.
I remember watching that trailer, and it was a little off to me because it wasn't a typical trailer. Like it had a voiceover and almost seemed like it was like the beginning of a commercial or something, and then it obviously then got deeper into
because Autumn Ivy has that like very commercially voice. Yeah, because I think she does a lot of voiceover.
She reads like erotic books.
Is that what she does? I thought she did like a voiceover for like some cartoons.
I'm sure she does that as well, but
yeah.
I just know that she does like we were obviously I followed her when we did the release and everything, and so I got to see a lot about what she did.
Yeah.
I joined her Discord channel.
Oh, cool.
To get to know kind of like a little behind the scenes of what she does on top of it. So
she's a very nice lady. Very nice.
Very sweet, very helpful as far as promoting the film. I even think that her and Monty did like a Discord screening of the film.
Oh, very
and
cool.
said like, here, go watch it.
That I didn't know. I didn't know. But yeah, But yeah, she has like one of those like voices that kind
Yeah.
of sounds like, it could be a commercial voice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So I was a little thrown off the beginning of it because I was just like,
Mhm.
what is like I was totally turned off at the very first few seconds, but then I was just like, oh, she's speaking because she is on a podcast. That
Yeah.
totally makes sense. So it does tie in together. Phenomenal choice, and I believe I'm not sure if Monty wrote this as well, but phenomenal.
He co-wrote it with
Did he?
with
Okay.
two others.
Cool.
Yeah.
But really cool because I've never seen like a podcast kind of get integrated and be like a obviously true crime podcast, but then it also then becomes about the true crime.
It's hard to talk about the movie without giving spoilers.
But we won't get too deep in it, but we can
Yeah.
give like the premise away of it.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
it tells you the Bittertooth killer, and in
Yeah.
the trailer, it talks about the Bittertooth killer. It talks about how one of them had an experience with the Bittertooth killer. So
Essentially, the best way to boil it down is it's about a podcast that's investigating a murderer that may become their next victim.
maybe
You know,
don't know. You have to
Yeah.
watch to find out.
you have to find out. The true life starts to blend with the podcast.
Yeah, but what was your initial idea when you got pitched this, or initial thoughts when you got pitched the idea?
I mean, look, I think Monty had like a concept of what he wanted to do, and a lot of these movies that I was doing with Nick and V Channel now in Insurgents, I wanted to give creative freedom. Like, what would they do, and what resources could they pull together within the confines of making one of these types of movies. So when he said he was going to make it about a true crime podcast, that maybe the people involved could become, the victims. I was like, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I was like, I haven't, it was very unique. And I was like, yeah, let's see what it is. I mean, I think that's literally all he said to me.
Crazy.
I think that's literally, Monty can comment, but I think that's literally all he said to me about what
That's
it would be.
wild.
Yeah.
And you're just like, go for it.
I was like, sounds cool, man.
Sounds
I'm
cool.
like, that's-
Can't wait to
well,
watch it.
Monty, like half the people that I did these with, I was more hands-on with,
Yeah.
because they had never done it before. Monty had done,
A little more experience.
he was more experienced, so he seemed passionate about it and had like an idea, and I was like, yeah, just run with it, man.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the cast in here, and we have the two podcasters, right? You got Genevieve Thomas, and then obviously you already mentioned Autumn Ivy. They're incredible dynamic, very very believable. I think sometimes you get two characters and they're not quite believable together. I think they did a really really well, like really good job, especially when it comes to indie films, right? Like you kind of have to work with the cast you got or the budget you have and everything. And these two just did a phenomenal job. We also have Helen Udy, who's iconic in the horror world, and so kudos to her for being in the film and being the mom. So I'm not sure whose relationship that was that got her on camera.
I think Monty had worked with her before.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
But it was a nice touch to have her there, and obviously a nice piece to have on the film, just so people can just search her name and then obviously be able to find it.
Yeah.
Whether they're searching on IMDb or whatever. So Joel Thierry, who's somewhat of an unknown name, and I really enjoyed his character. I want to see him in more. And I think these are the great things about indie films is like you find a character that's very unknown. I think he's got like less than 1,000 followers on Instagram or whatever, and like it's sad that we like judge actors based on followers now, but it's stupid. But he is just a really down to earth dude. I think that might have been his property in Acton where they did shoot, and he actually loves dogs. Like the dogs in the films I think were his.
Yeah.
And so like he's just a really really cool dude, and just a low key vibe. But
First shot of the movie, the first thing I'm thinking is like, how'd they get these dogs to behave so well?
yeah, right.
Like,
He trained them nicely, and I was like a lot of hamburger meat.
I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, he's giving out meat the whole time, but like, I have a French bulldog, and he does not do anything I tell him to do. Yeah, meatball.
Good old meatball.
Does nothing I tell him to do.
Last but not least, we have Justin Michael Terry, who has been he was also a big proponent of the film in promoting it, being on Mometu. So shout out to Justin as well. He played, I think it's Joe's son, is the relationship there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really cool dynamic, really cool cast. As far as this film, and I don't want to give too much away, but what was your favorite scene in the film?
Yeah. So, I mean, jumping back to like, talking about the editing, when they are discussing how they're going to relay the information about the Bittertooth killer. There's a montage that happens of them discussing it and cutting to them actually talking about it.
Yeah.
And the way that was edited, and like some of the shots, I know there's a specific shot that Monty had where it's a big close up of the mask, but you see one of the characters in each of the eyes of the mask. I thought that was so unique, and just I think he made some really cool, interesting things with those, as well as having the text messages popping up and all that. I thought it was just such an interesting sequence. I thought that was honestly my favorite sequence in the movie.
Yeah. For mine, and I'm just gonna say one simple word: chainsaw.
I mean, yeah, that makes
Just
sense.
chainsaw.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm like over here, like going, yeah, I like the technical editing aspect, and you're like, I like the violence.
I like. Well, I didn't say violence. I just said chainsaw. That's all I said.
Well,
No, whatever. Spoiler free. As far as this film, and again, it's hard to talk about this film without giving away any spoilers. Who do you think is going to love this film? Like, what audience is this for?
I think it's for the type of people that listen to true crime podcasts.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like if you're into true crime, if you watch, you know, like ID channel, if you can't wait to see that, you know, new true crime doc, like that's who it's for.
Yeah.
You know, because I think it does fan service for that and that culture, but like turns it on its head.
For sure.
But I think that's the target audience.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
mean, overall, it's a lighter horror film. Like, obviously, there's some small aspects of horror in there.
Yeah. It's horror light, but
Yeah.
I think it's a
Like
fun
entry
ride.
to horror. In
Yeah,
a sense,
it's
right?
a fun ride.
Just
for
enough
sure.
in there to like
Yeah, exactly.
scratch the
But also,
itch.
I mean, very similar. You know, Stupid Games is not like it's a horror movie that you could watch with
Very
you know,
intro to horror.
Yeah.
Watch it with like a teenager. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's not something that's like going to give people nightmares, but it's like it's spooky, you know,
Yes.
like it's and that's that's the kind of horror I loved when I was younger too. I mean, believe me, I watched like crazy stuff like Pinhead and all that
Right
stuff,
on your
but
forearm there.
you know, and like really crazy Japanese horror movies, like grotesque and all that stuff. But I also really loved like Goosebumps and like stuff like that. And I think like the entry level horror stuff is always fun too.
Yeah. By the way, we do have a very nice selection of Asian horror films
Oh yeah, hell
on
yeah,
Mometu, so you
Hell
definitely
yeah.
need to check that out.
hell yeah.
I was surprised that I was not surprised that you chose Bittertooth because you were part of it.
Yeah.
But it would have been fun to see like kind of a deep genre film of like what you'd like to get into.
I mean, I kind of felt like I had to choose Bittertooth because I felt like it was my responsibility to plug something I was involved with,
Yeah, and I actually was talking to Monty about obviously doing another
Yeah.
episode, and I just told him, I said, yeah, we're gonna have to do another film or Blood Covered Chocolate because we can't do Bittertooth. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, someone already chose it, and James did. He's like, that's so awesome. James wants to promote the film. Thanks for. He actually said to say thank you.
Oh,
and-
for sure, dude. Thank you for making the film. Monty's a class act, man. He's a good dude, and I think he really did a great job here.
Thanks for spending your time with us today on the More For Me and You podcast. If you've made it to the end, we appreciate you. Now, go do us a quick favor. Please like, comment, and share this episode. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode with the incredible guests we have coming up. You can also follow us at Mometu Podcast on Instagram and on TikTok. Oh, and for your next movie night, check out the Mometu app. It's free and packed with amazing movies and shows you've probably never seen. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you in the pod.